Okay, so I got this question from the last class that talks about required stock level, and also it talks about the quantity of items being deducted when you make an order, right? So the question is coming from someone called YoungYB-LP4WC. How do we add required level for products to find in stock or out of stock, right? Okay, so first take note we are using item because product is a bit broad, so we are using item. So the easy way to solve this will be first to go to your item. So we are talking about item. This is what you call product. So for each item, there is certain quantity for that item. So meaning that if you place an order, that order must not go below the quantity of item you have in stock. We are going to talk about reorder level just after now. To make sure that the quantity will never be negative, so what we are going to do is to implement the setter function for quantity, and we are going to make that check in the setter function for quantity. So we are going to say public, public set quantity. Okay, so it's giving us this immediately, it writes it for us. So this dot quantity is equal to quantity, that is fine. However, we want to check that this quantity coming in is not negative. So what we are going to do, we are going to check if the quantity is less than 0, then we are going to throw an exception, throw new illegal argument exception. It's going to be illegal argument exception, quantity cannot be negative. Okay, our quantity is below the available quantity. So this is a simple way to handle, and of course, if everything works, you are going to now say this dot quantity, this dot quantity is equal to quantity. Okay, so there is a basic way to handle this. Now, if you want to have a reorder level so that your item or your product, as you call it, but normally we talk about item, does not go below this reorder level or threshold, you want to add another field here. So it's going to be private short reorder level. Okay, so this field now is the reorder level. So instead of now checking for the quantity, you want to check for the reorder level. So here we are going to now say set quantity, and we are going to check that quantity is not less the quantity coming in. So there is a quantity you want to set, and now we want to make sure that this quantity is not below the reorder level, right? So I'm going to simply check if the quantity is not less than the reorder level. So this actually solves the problem. Now there is something else we need to talk about. We need to talk about the status. So now the status, we can now handle it in the UI, right? So when we have in our React UI, we can now check. I can actually go to the UI. I think I have the UI. So let's see. Okay, so this is basically the items table. So here we can now add the status here. So we are going to leave that until we are going to be working on the UI, and then we figure out how to display the status here based on the reorder level. For now, this is a complete application, so we've not gotten to the UI at this time. Okay, so having done this, the next thing we want to do is to be able to reduce the quantity when an order is placed. So when you place a new order, it happens right here in the order service, right here. So when you want to save an order, you want to deduct the quantity. And of course, you can also check, perform that check right here. So what is happening here is we're going to get the items here, and for each of the order item, we are going to check if they are below the reorder level. And if so, we are going to throw an exception. So this is another way to handle it. So I'm going to say, so actually what we are going to do is we are going to look at all the items, the quantity being ordered for all the items, and check it against the reorder level of those items. So I'm going to say order items, get order items for each order item. So what we are going to do here, we are going to calculate the quantity, the new quantity after this item is deducted. So I'm going to say item is equal to other item dot get item. So this is the item in question, right? So the other item is the order you placed in your order that has a quantity you want to buy. The item is the item in stock. So we are going to check that the quantity you are trying to place as an order, the quantity you've chosen to place, is not below the reorder level of this specific item. So what we are going to do, we are going to first calculate the new quantity that is going to be the new quantity after that deduction is made. So I'm going to say new quantity. Again, you can have this new quantity to be checking for reorder level. You can also have it to be checking for the quantity in stock. If you don't want the quantity in stock to ever be 0, then you are going to be checking the reorder level. But if you want this quantity to can also get to 0, then you can also be checking the quantity. At the UI, or even at your notification level, where you're going to be sending notification based on reorder level, you can now be checking the reorder level and also the quantity, the difference between the two. For now, what we are going to do is we are going to simply make sure that the quantity being ordered does not go below the reorder level. So I'm going to say the new quantity is going to be item dot get quantity minus the other item dot get quantity. So I'm going to cast this to short, I think. Okay. So the next thing we do now is to check if the quantity is less than 0 or is less than the reorder level, depending on your requirements. So I'm going to say if this quantity is less than the item dot get reorder level. So if this is the case, then what we are going to do here is throw new exception. So I'm going to throw new invalid, illegal argument exception quantity. We want to give a descriptive message. So I'm going to use a string.format because I want to tell him the actual item, other item that is causing the problem. So I'm going to use string.format and I'm going to say item S is quantity of item X is not available. Please reduce to or less. Okay. So quantity, the quantity of item you ordered is not available. Please reduce to that. So let's put in the parameters. So the parameter for the first one is going to be item dot get description. So quantity of, let's say, bottled water is not available. Please reduce to the reorder level or less. So I'm going to now say item dot get reorder level. Okay, that will be the second parameter. Okay, so if this exception does not happen, then we are going to set the quantity, right? So if this exception is not thrown, then it means the quantity is okay. We are going to set. So I'm going to say item dot set quantity, and we are going to set the new quantity. And of course, we are now going to do item dot save. Item. We actually will need the item repository here. So we are going to need the private item repository. I'm going to use a final, so I'm going to do a constructor injection. Okay, so item.set quantity, and I'm going to save that item. That is, if I save it, it's going to now update the quantity to the new quantity after the deduction has been made. So I'm going to say item repository.save, and I'm going to give item. Okay, so this is basically it. So this solves all the problems you raised. So I hope this suffices. So let's just recap. So the easy way to do it is to have the setter in the Peugeot, in the model, and simply check when the incoming quantity is below the quantity or is below the reorder level. The next way to do it, you can actually do it both ways, is to have the check done in the order service when you are actually placing the order. They want to look at all the items being ordered, and for any item that are having quantity that is above the reorder level or the reorder level, yes, then we are going to throw an exception. And to get that quantity, whether it's above the reorder level, it means if you subtract it from the reorder level, it's going to be negative, right? The new quantity should never be, after subtracting, should never be less than the reorder level. Otherwise, you can also check if it's less than the quantity. So you check if it's either below the reorder level, otherwise you can also check if it is below 0. Either way, you can actually throw an exception for either way. Now, one thing I want to mention is, since this is a for each statement, and for each statement we are doing a save, it means that we are going to need a transaction here. So it means that we are doing several saves, so that if any of this save fails, then you also want to roll back everything. So you have to put transactional here, and of course in also the class you want to at the class level you also want to apply the transactional annotation there as well. Okay, so hope this answers your question. So this is how to track the reorder level or the quantity being ordered to make sure that it doesn't go below the threshold, or the quantity being ordered does not set the existing item's quantity in stock to a negative value. I'd like to thank you for viewing. Please remember to subscribe to my channel. Also give a like to this video. Join my channel. If you click on join button below, you can support me and we can work on this project together. You can also say thanks. Either way you would like to support me, that would be great. And so we see in the next part.